Ohio State and Notre Dame. Clearly, two of the best teams in the country facing off for a national championship, something that wouldn't have been possible if not for the expansion of the college football playoff. The Fighting Irish lost early in the year to Northern Illinois.
The biggest upset in their school's history.
In previous seasons, that would have been it. But new format. They didn't panic. They just kept winning. The Buckeyes lost barely to a really good Oregon team.
Time runs out, and that'll do it. Oh, my goodness.
And then lost to Michigan again.
And the Michigan Wolverines will shock the college football world.
But got into the college football playoff and got the job done to set up a battle against Notre Dame, a rare national championship without any SEC teams. And it was
nice.
Neither Ohio State or Notre Dame were even a top 6 seed heading into the 12-team college football playoff. Isn't that crazy? They both absolutely deserve to be in the playoff and fought their way to the national championship to earn their spot. But first, thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. If you're anything like me, you absolutely loved ripping sports cards as a kid. My dad and my grandfather were super into it, and I ended up super into it. And that was just an incredible memory from my childhood doing that. I specifically loved hockey cards, trying to get any of my favorite players. It was an awesome thing, opening a pack, and the possibilities were endless. You could get anything in that pack. It was an awesome feeling. And now with slab packs at arenaclub.com, you can recreate that feeling every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, so I have my multi-sport slab pack right here, ready to open. And I'm going to go ahead and slide it here. We're going to see what we get. I don't know. Should I do this slow? Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. I can just do it at whatever pace. Here we go. We have a little sound effect too. We're opening it up. Okay, we got a Bobby Witt Jr. auto. That's a nice card. 2021, 9 mint, 10 auto. Wow, I do not have many baseball cards. I was always more of a football card guy, but man, this is a nice card. Bobby Witt, one of the best young players coming up right now. That is so cool. And here we go. Now in our showroom, we have this new Bobby Witt card, and that's nice. Look at this. We even get a nice breakdown of why it's that way. That is so awesome. There's so many other cool features. I even sent in 5 of my own personal cards from my own collection that now, thanks to Arena Club, are going to be properly graded and sent back to me within 21 days, which is really cool. Here's some of my cards from my own collection that I've collected since I was a little kid, and now I can use that with Arena Club to get them graded, finally. It's so cool how far technology has really come, where I remember opening these packs, and now there's some kind of digital way to do that. And with slab packs, it's so much easier to grab some gem mints at a fraction of the cost. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and the hit rate of each card. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they end up right there in your vault, whether you want to keep them, sell them, or trade them. And you can have them officially graded by Arena Club. The grading process is fast, accurate, and transparent, and you get a full grade rationale, really explaining why your card was graded that way. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or just displaying your cards, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. This multi-sport slab pack is dropping on Tuesday, January 21st at 10 o'clock Pacific time or 1 o'clock Eastern time. Make sure to sign up for Arena Club to stay updated. And don't forget about the Arena Club buyback program. It offers 80% of the pack's retail value with up to 10 buyback opportunities. There are 3 different kinds of packs, all have 1 slab per pack, multi-sport. The starter pack is $100, the pro pack is $500, and the eliter pack is $1,000. And it's so cool because you can literally see what cards are in that slab. Arena Club is great, and right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack purchase or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/JDProd and use code JDProd. Thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. And let's get right back to it. It wasn't a perfect season for Ohio State that led up to the national championship. There were narratives around Ryan Day and whether or not he could get it done. Now, Urban Meyer was so successful and a big name. He won the national championship in 2014 over Oregon. That was the first year of the college football playoff before it was the BCS format. Ohio State wouldn't have even gotten to play in that natty if it weren't for the change of format. They were the number 4 seed, and now it's the same same case a decade later. The Buckeyes haven't won a championship since and have only gotten there once in 2020 with Ryan Day in his second season as the head coach, but Ohio State did end up getting crushed by Alabama. Ohio State also made the college football playoff in 2016, 2019, and 2022, but lost in the semifinal. Day had gotten close, but not close enough, and there were some serious criticisms around Ohio State this season. It was a good 5-0 start, and no one played any bit close to the Buckeyes, and then came Oregon. Now, still looking back, that was one of the best games of the entire season. OSU was number 2 at the time. Oregon was number 3. We now know Oregon turned out to be number 1 and undefeated coming into the college football playoff, but that was a classic. Ohio State literally led going into the fourth quarter, then Oregon hit a field goal to go up 32-31 with 1:47 left. Ohio State tried to get down and try a late field goal, but Will Howard ended up with a run and time ran out. Just didn't have enough time. And it wasn't even the only blemish on the Buckeyes record. The one game a year Ohio State fans always want to win, the game. Well, Ohio State lost again for the 4th straight time, even with Michigan not even being that good this year. Yes, I know they beat Alabama in the Relia Quest Bowl, but still went 7-5 in the regular season. But Ohio State still couldn't win. Michigan hit a field goal with 45 seconds left, and Ohio State lost 13-10. Only 10 points against a 7-5 team. Now, other than those two, Ohio State was pretty good. They beat number 3 Penn State and number 5 Indiana for some pretty big wins, but still didn't get to the Big Ten championship. Still, Ohio State got into the college football playoff as the 8th seed and ended up absolutely obliterating Tennessee 42-17 in the first round. It wasn't super surprising that Ohio State won, but it was just ugly. Then the next week was the rematch, Ohio State and Oregon, and this time at the Rose Bowl. Oregon was undefeated, and that big scare for them was Ohio State back on October 12th. The Buckeyes got their revenge and did it convincingly, 41-21. It was a huge win, and if it wasn't already clear then, Ohio State could 100% win the national championship. The semifinal was awesome, such a good game. Ohio State rolled through before having to face Texas, but man, the Longhorns, they gave them a game. Ohio State led at half 14-7, then Texas tied it in the third. It wasn't until Quinshon Judkins punched it in with 7:02 to go that Ohio State led, and Quinn Ewers, man, he had a shot. It was never over. Not only did Texas have a chance, they drove down, they were on the doorstep, but Jack Sawyer called game. He strip sacked Ewers, returned it all the way back for a touchdown, and then Ewers got picked by Caleb Downs, and it was really over. Ohio State is stacked. You know, it is no surprise when you look at that roster that they got to the national championship. Will Howard had a great season, and holy cow, man, Jeremiah Smith, that dude is insane, only a freshman, not to mention Emeka Ibuka. Then the run game, I mean, how do you stop Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins? You don't, is usually the answer. And as for the Ohio State defense, yeah, it's pretty good. The Buckeyes led the country in points per game, yards per play, and their opponent's red zone scoring percentage and sack percentage were both best in the country. Just insane. Ohio State was a really fun team to watch the entire season, and is a team that I thought was going to be really good coming into the year. Even with Kyle McCord, Ohio State was really good. You bring in Will Howard, who was expected to be even better, and he answered that call. Jeremiah Smith is one of the most exciting players to watch in the entire country. I know there's been so much hype around Ryan Williams at Alabama and how he's a freshman, and it's the same exact story with Jeremiah Smith. He is absolutely going to be a top pick at the NFL draft once he is draft eligible. He is so fantastic. And then you look at those running backs. I've been watching Travion Henderson for a long time. He grew up nearby. I watched him even play in high school when he was at Hopewell near the Richmond area, and now he's at Ohio State, and he is fantastic. You add Quinshon Judkins to that equation, and how on earth do you stop the Ohio State run game? Still, some teams figured it out. Oregon played really well against them, but the main one is that Michigan game. There's just certain devils that they're fighting against Michigan 4 straight now after they won so many in a row. It's absolutely insane, but that's how it goes sometimes. Ohio State, the whole season was still very legit, and it was so easy to see even with 2 losses, and it's a shame to think that a team that good would not have even gotten the chance to try to fight their way to a national championship game. Instead, with a 12-team playoff, they sneak in and they make noise. They killed Tennessee. And once they beat Tennessee, I really thought Ohio State, or once they beat Tennessee, I really thought that it was going to be Ohio State or Georgia to win the national championship. Here we are with Ohio State. Great all season, couple blitzes on the road, but because of this new format, they get to play, and they're good. The defense is good, and Ryan Day has started to actually prove some of those doubters wrong, and that is so cool to see for Ohio State. I don't necessarily care for Ohio State 99% of the time, but I also really don't care for Notre Dame, so it didn't matter much to me. It's good seeing teams that are these top-level teams like Ohio State in the national championship, especially when it's a top-level team that isn't in the SEC. Notre Dame has had a ton of successful seasons in the 21st century, but national championships haven't exactly been part of the equation. That dates back all the way to Lou Holtz winning a natty in 1988. Now that's a guy who Ryan Day knows all too well and often wants to know where he's at.
Like, I like to know where Lou Holtz is right now.
Now, for NFL reference of how long it's been since that Notre Dame national championship, think about how long. The Lions and Washington were just ass. Well, they played in the NFC championship against each other in 1991, 3 years after Notre Dame won that national championship. That being said, Notre Dame wasn't a joke, mostly. There were some ugly days, like specifically under Charlie Weiss, but then Brian Kelly took the job. He stuck around for a good 12 seasons and did make the national championship back during the BCS format. Of course, all those wins got vacated because of ineligible players. But even then, the Fighting Irish got absolutely curb stomped by Alabama. I mean, that was a good team. Manti Te'o was the dog on that roster. There were some other dudes who were relevant in the NFL for a while after, like Zach Martin, even Tyler Eifert and Stephon Tuitt. Brian Kelly never got back, but he did get to the college football playoff in 2018 and 2020, but bowed out in the semifinals. Clearly, Notre Dame just couldn't win a national championship. At least that's what he thought. He left for LSU, and at the time, it sounded like Marcus Freeman was headed to LSU with Kelly to be the defensive coordinator there, but that isn't how it went, was it? Freeman stuck around, became the head coach, and it actually started off pretty bad. Notre Dame lost 3 straight to start the Freeman era, and the Fiesta Bowl to Oklahoma State, then to open 2022 to Ohio State and Marshall. Not ideal, but Notre Dame did finish 9-4. Then last season went 10-3. That brings us to 2024. The Irish have been good, but a run to the Natty was unexpected, especially after their second game of the year. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois at home on September 7th, 16-14. Notre Dame was number 5 in the country and then lost to a MAC team. NIU hit a field goal with 31 seconds left, and then Notre Dame had a chance with a 62-yarder, but it was blocked as time expired. A brutal loss that felt like it could derail the season for Notre Dame. It didn't. They didn't lose again. Notre Dame picked up some decent wins in the regular season. It was nothing crazy, though. Wins over number 20 Texas A&M, number 15 Louisville, number 24 Navy, and number 19 Army. There was still a good bit to prove in the postseason, and Notre Dame lived up to it. Obviously, as an independent, they don't play a conference championship game at all, but then they got the 7th seed in the playoff. The first round was against Indiana, and really just 2 teams with a lot to prove and people who doubted them. Notre Dame answered the call, beat Indiana 27-17, and moved on to the quarterfinal. Then it got a bit tougher. Georgia, the SEC champ. Every year, it's about the SEC, and Notre Dame did not care. The Irish straight up outplayed Georgia. Sure, it did not help that Georgia was without starting quarterback Carson Beck, but a win is a win. Notre Dame looked good. If anyone was still skeptical about Notre Dame then, I think it was about over by the semifinal. And then there was big game, James Franklin again doing it. One of the best games of the entire season against Penn State in the semifinal. 33 seconds left. Tie game. Penn State has the ball, and Drew Aller is picked off by Christian Gray, who gets the ball to the PSU 42-yard line. And Notre Dame didn't have to go too much further. And then with 7 seconds left, Mitch Jeter, who struggled a lot during the season, nailed it from 41 yards to win 27-24. A classic. It was an incredible game. And Riley Leonard was really great for the Irish, whether it was passing or running all season, even if he hasn't been fantastic in the playoff. Jaden Greathouse has definitely become that top receiving target for him. Jeremiah Love really stands out and is really good on the ground, but had been dealing with a knee injury. As for the defense, Notre Dame came in only behind Ohio State in points allowed, but they're just mainly known for forcing turnovers. At 5th in the country, safety Xavier Watts had 6 picks himself, good for 2nd in the FBS. Notre Dame, I've been skeptical of for a while now. Even those Brian Kelly teams, he put together some really good teams, but I would wondered if they could legitimately fight for a national championship. And the SEC and Big Ten, it's so easy to see these teams against other top tier talent. It's hard to see that with Notre Dame. Even in the Big 12 and the ACC and even the Pac-12 before that really good last season, it's hard to really evaluate some of these teams. You see how tough some of these schedules are in the SEC and Big Ten and the teams that these guys are going up against every single week. And Notre Dame kind of just gets to do whatever they want. I don't like that they're an independent, and it makes sense why they are. They make a ton of money. Now they're getting a ton of money just for rolling through the college football playoff, and it's great for the school. And the new format of 12 teams is great for Notre Dame before they get left out a lot, because it would be conference champions. If there was a good conference champion in the ACC or the Big 12, they would get in instead. You could easily just have Big 10 champion, SEC champion, runner up in the SEC, and then throw in an ACC team if they were good, like a Clemson or Florida State. This is huge for Notre Dame. I really do like Marcus Freeman, even though I don't really care for Notre Dame. They've been so much fun, and it's just an awesome journey for them to lose to a MAC school in Northern Illinois earlier in the season and absolutely rally around and be able to finish off the season so strong, make it to the national championship. I really like Riley Leonard. I thought he was really good at Duke. Was pretty excited when he decided to go to Notre Dame. It was the same thing with Sam Hartman when he was at Wake Forest and went to Notre Dame. These guys that played well in the ACC, getting their chance to play on a higher level at Notre Dame, where the whole country is watching you every single week. Notre Dame's good. I don't think they were one of the actually most talented teams in that college football playoff, but they absolutely earned their way to the national championship, beat some really good teams to get there. Really, really tough journey to try to get to the national championship. Obviously, the biggest one was Ohio State going through Oregon, but Notre Dame, they had to go through Georgia and then just to go through Penn State, who's always very good, very competitive, even if James Franklin can't win it in the big moments. Absolutely an incredible season for Notre Dame. They were legit. Ohio State was legit. It was perfect for those two teams in the national championship. Those two are teams that clearly deserved it, and that's what you want to see, and that is what has made this new college football playoff format of 12 teams, whether that stays or changes at some point, it's made it at least better than the 4-team format. It really felt like the national championship was going to get out of hand, but somehow it got interesting late. Notre Dame actually started off so well, going 75 yards in 9 minutes and 45 seconds, capped off with a Riley Leonard punch-in touchdown. The Fighting Irish literally bullied Ohio State on the first drive. It was dominant, and it made it seem like they were going to be hard to stop all game. It made it seem like Notre Dame was going to be a really tough out. Then Ohio State immediately responded. The Buckeyes went straight down the field, scored on an 8-yard Jeremiah Smith touchdown from Will Howard, and then the Irish couldn't get out of their own way, taking a couple bad penalties and having to punt. Ohio State went down in 10 plays and scored as Quinshawn Judkins ran it from 9 yards out. It was a quick swing for Ohio State, and Judkins even scored again on a 6-yard pass from Howard. It was a bit of a defensive breakdown, and just like that, it was 21-7 at half. It didn't help that the Buckeyes got the ball at half, and Notre Dame really had to respond on defense. Instead, Ohio State scored again. Judkins, again, punched it in after he had a 70-yard run that got the Buckeyes down the field. Add in an Ohio State field goal a little bit later, and it was suddenly 31-7. It's hard to come back from that point, but the Irish tried. Riley Leonard hit Jaden Greathouse for a 34-yard touchdown and then got the 2-point conversion. It took a while, but almost a full quarter later, Leonard found Greathouse again for a 30-yard touchdown to make it 31-23 after another 2-point conversion. It gave the sense of a close game, and with how it was at halftime, I think that's really all we could have asked for. But Ohio State did then drive down, iced the game with a field goal, and that was it. Ohio State, national champions. Both quarterbacks played well. Leonard had 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the top rusher with 40 yards and a touchdown. The actual run game couldn't get going, really just because they were already down so much. Greathouse was by far his top receiving option with 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. As for Ohio State, Howard had 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 57 yards, and then Judkins had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travion Henderson actually got most of the carries and had 49 yards. No surprise, but Jeremiah Smith was the top receiving target with 88 yards and a touchdown. He is so good. And really, the whole Ohio State team is just so good. It's no wonder why they won it all. I really feel like this wasn't a super hyped up national championship. We've had past ones that have been really big deals, and it feels like this one kind of got swept under the rug. I don't know if it was just a really big divisional weekend in the NFL or what, but there wasn't a ton of hype from what I saw going into it about Ohio State or Notre Dame. I think a lot of people expected expected Ohio State to win, and that's kind of exactly what happened. You know, it was a really, really exciting first quarter and couple minutes in that second quarter. You know, for Notre Dame to come down and have this great drive was kind of surprising. And then you have Ohio State immediately respond. You're like, man, we're gonna get a shootout. Like, this is what's gonna happen. Notre Dame's not built to have a shootout. Notre Dame's built to beat you 14-10. But maybe we're gonna have a shootout. These offenses were moving at will. Then Ohio State gets that stop, and then they score, and then they score again, and then they score again. And suddenly you're like, this is what's happening. Even just Notre Dame making it really close at the end, I think just made it a much, much better game. You don't look back at it as this awful blowout that wasn't very interesting. The final drive literally mattered there. Ohio State went down, got that late field goal. That mattered. Notre Dame could have gotten the ball back. If they got the defensive stop there, they could have 100% gotten the ball back, gone down. They had already gotten to the 2-point conversions and easily could have scored again. I think one of the big crucial moments that wasn't a scoring play was Notre Dame got down with, 9 to 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You're already down. Mitch Jeter ends up missing it. It seems like that was a pretty big mistake. You probably weren't going to get the ball back enough times, and you weren't stopping Ohio State. You should have just gone for it. It was 4th and goal. I get you were a little far away, but you should have gone for it. I think that was a really silly mistake. I think that's one that Marcus Freeman almost definitely wishes he has back now. But regardless, this isn't a national championship I'm going to look back on and be disappointed from. I wish it was closer, yes, but like, this wasn't TCU, Michigan. We've had some bad national championships. That's the one that's always the glaring one of how boring it was. That game didn't matter early. This one didn't matter there for a while, but Notre Dame did make it interesting. Congrats to Ohio State. I'm excited for some of those guys. Travion Henderson, I'm really excited to see him win a championship. Will Howard, good for him coming over from Kansas State to win a natty. It's cool. Ryan Day gets to kill a lot of these narratives, and now back-to-back years, your national champion was somebody that played in the big game. Michigan and then Ohio State. It looks great for that rivalry. Those are two of the best teams in college football, and that's probably going to stay for a while if Michigan can actually turn things around there. It was a heck of a season. I know everybody's going to miss college football very, very soon, but now we get to see a lot of these guys like Will Howard, who just played, and now we get to talk about them as NFL draft prospects. We'll see how that goes, but it was an incredible season and just a true testament of how good the 12-team playoff can be, because without the 12-team playoff, Notre Dame and Ohio State would not have even been in. Even if it was a 16 playoff, they wouldn't have gotten in. Expanded 12, you get the 7-8 seed in year 1, and Ohio State wins it as the 8th seed, just like when they were the 4 seed back when the college football playoffs started and they went away from the BCS format. They won the national championship that year after a lot of people wonder if they should even get in, and they do it again here. Just so cool to see. Congrats to Ohio State. I don't care for Ohio State, but I also don't care for Notre Dame. So the Buckeyes deserve it. I can't believe they still lost to Michigan. I can believe they lost to Oregon, but what a season altogether. Ohio State's going to look very different next year. That's just how college sports work, but man, they're going to be good for a while. Ryan Day's got it figured out, and Jeremiah Smith, he's not even draft eligible till 2027.